Let's get started. Welcome, everyone. Uh, we have a lot of people joining in from India, of course, and a lot of people outside India. Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for spending this time with me. I really would like to appreciate your commitment to your growth, that you're investing your time on a Saturday morning with me. And this is the first thing we need, that is commitment when we are on our path to growth. And second thing I need today is basically from you is a pen and notebook, as I said, so that you can take notes. And you need a space where you can focus, think, reflect, and feel. Yes, I want all through the masterclass, give yourself some space and time to focus, think, reflect, and feel. Keep writing your questions in the Q&A box. I will be taking them at the right logical time for sure, and all the questions will be answered. And if any question is left during the masterclass, we will do it towards the end. So I've kept some time in the end for all the question and answers. So let's make it interactive. Whenever there is a question I ask during the masterclass, basically that's to trigger some thoughts in your mind so that we are all ready to co-create a learning together. So do reply in the Q&A box. Chat is disabled as of now. We will switch on the chat maybe towards the end of it. So I'll start with sharing a story that a client called me last week, and he's the CEO of a tech company. He was very upset as one of his directors had resigned, and there was an argument. The director was expecting a promotion, and he had been doing really, really well since last couple of years. And this tech company has also grown. In these times, also company is doing well. But the organization had promoted his another peer, another director. And this director, who has been doing very well, had resigned. He always thought that he is in the pipeline and he was doing good work. He was applauded always by customers, by everybody. But the CEO spoke to me. He said, Manveer, I never thought that he's in the pipeline. I don't know where did this misunderstanding came from. There was never an explicit discussion about it. And he was very upset because he always thought that this director is really good in his work and very mature. But he said, no, it's a very immature thing. Suddenly resigning that he's not getting promoted. So he thought it was a very emotional response from him. So I, as an executive and leadership coach, have endless stories about this kind of thing where there is a communication gap, where there is a misunderstanding, where people think that they are not got promoted. So my question to you is, to start with, what do you think, who gets promoted after mid level? What are the characteristics of an individual who gets promoted? And you can type in your answer in Q&A box. Who gets promoted after the mid level? Do type in your answers. I've started getting answers. But who gets promoted? What do you think? What's your thought? In your organization, who have you seen getting promotions after mid level? Yeah. Who's asking for it? Who meets the criteria? Who's eligible? Yeah. Yeah. Somebody with good emotional intelligence, somebody said. Somebody said, someone with leadership qualities, extreme performers. I loved what couple said, who has started working at the next level already. Interesting. Yeah, so there are a lot of stories. There is no zero and one answer. There are a lot of stories. It depends on different organization. It depends on our experiences of our seniors, right? And I have different story to tell you. You may resonate with the story, you may not. Let's keep talking about it. That who gets promoted? What do mid managers think that who gets promoted? They think that somebody who's getting promoted is smart, play politics, they have high relationships, right relationships, and maybe more in the sense somebody who has recently got a project one, somebody who's lucky, right? That's what people think, that they are getting promoted. Yeah, who can show off their work every time. So I have also got an answer. Somebody said, who can show off their work. Yeah, that's what, the story is. This is all stories, right? We all have stories to share. And I think share is stopped. I'm going to share my screen again. Yeah. So can you see my screen well? Can you write in the Q&A box if you can see my screen well? Yeah, thank you. Perfect. Thank you. So this is what story from the mid-level managers. And I work on the other side of it, where organizations talk to us, where organizations, HR heads, business heads, CEOs talk to us and talk about what they are looking at when they are promoting people. So, these people look at things differently. Their stories are very different. So, what they are looking for is, people who have tangible success, consistent, continuous, tangible success. And they remember you when you create that kind of success consistently. Your management is looking at the track record you are creating and how you're getting the job done. How is also very important. And these things may not be in black and white somewhere, that way you can tick mark, but they all created through a lot of experiences you create with everyone. Your say do ratio sounds pretty simple, but you may be surprised at how many people promise something, but they don't come close to delivering it. One very simple aspect of this is to follow up on your commitment. What often happens is that we see something in one of the meetings or one of the interactions that that can improve a client situation. We notice something, and we immediately make a promise to do something about that particular thing. And before we get back to our desk, we are hit with five more pressing issues that needs attention, or maybe 100 emails that needs response, and we forget about what we have just committed, what we spoke about. I can assure you that the person you promised this have not forgotten. It may be a very minimal thing that doesn't even have any real importance, but the fact is that people don't forget this, they keep this to them, that you have not come across as a committed human being, committed leader. Conversation skills. So you may see me looking at this window because I have another window here, so another machine here, which where I'm looking at the screen is coming right or not. So I may seem to look at this site once in a while to test it if everything is right. So conversational skill. Organization is constantly having a feeler of how confident and trustworthy, how collaborative your conversations are. Many of these are in KRAs as tick mark boxes, but what I'm not talking about here is about your appraisal thing. No, people feel it because you are creating those experiences when you are having a conversation. Business mind. This is very close to my heart, believe me. I meet so many executives who are so passionate about what they do and they don't care about the bigger picture. Where is organization going? Where should the organization go? Where is industry going? Where are your customers going? Bigger picture. We have heard this word multiple times, but sometimes we are so involved in the rut, that we forget to take care of that particular bigger picture. Somebody said, in the chat, prepared for the next level. Very important thing. Professionals think promotion is a promise of past or present performance, but organization think it's a future promise. If you don't take anything from masterclass today, take this word, write down this word. It's a future promise. We all may know it theoretically, but I'm just putting all these things in the right light so that we don't forget it. It's a future promise. They look for candidates who are not only delivering the best in the present role, but also they are the best for future roles. And very important is, that includes your brand, your visibility, your people skills, your emotional intelligence, your conversations, and also your ability to backfill your position. See, if you don't have somebody ready, even at mid-level management, if you don't have sight of somebody who can take your role, you will not be promoted for sure. That's for sure. So that's what organizations think. And there is a gap. Every 9 out of 10 leaders I speak to, in my experience, I have been working in industry for 25 years now, 15 years in corporate, and now 10 years as a coach. Every 9 out of 10 mid-level leaders I speak to say that they don't know where I'm heading to. I really don't know, Manbir, where I'm heading to. They're not clear about where organization is taking them, where life is taking them. There are many statistics I could have brought, but I've just got one statistics just to set the right premise here. 54% of the employees are unclear about their promotion and career path. And there can be multiple statistics, about this thing or the related things. So what do mid managers do? Let's quickly see that, they feel frustrated, given up attitude, feel negative about organization, work, change the job, and some of them explore entrepreneurship. So many of these things seep from negativity, from frustration that, nothing has happened. I don't know what's going to happen. Why do mid managers get stuck? First things first, there are going to be lesser positions at top. All of us in this webinar, all of you are mid-level and above. So you understand that. I'm just wondering, can you see my screen? Okay. So as we know that mid-level managers positions, from to senior level, of course it's a pyramid and it's going to take time. So you have to be patient about that also. So that is definitely there. But knowing those circumstances, even knowing those things, somebody or the other gets promoted, right? So if somebody is getting promoted in your organization, why can't it be you? Whenever there is an opportunity, it should be you. That's what I am looking at. Whenever there is an opportunity, it should be you. And the other side of the story is, do you know how many leadership positions are filled by external hires? More than 50%. Why? Because internally, internal people don't have that kind of perception. They're not looked at somebody who can take that leadership position. Why? Because other perceives, all management, everybody perceives you through what you do, how you behave, how can you connect with other people. They perceive you through your doing, being, and connecting. I'll take a second here for you to digest this and look at the Q&A, what's happening there. So about the gap, I meant was that there is a gap about what we think that this will take us there and what actually will take you there. There's a gap in understanding, when we think about promotions and how organizations think about promotions. That's what I mean by gap. So when I'm talking about doing, so many people at mid-level and beyond also, they're not sure that, what exactly they want, which role they're looking at. From executive, from junior executive to mid level to director, or maybe that kind of positions. Designations are anyways relative. Things are pretty clear, but beyond that, we really need to own up. That's what is missing. People are not sure which role they're looking for. They've never explicitly raised the request. And sometimes, when I'm talking about doing, there's a doing part. Sometimes people are, it's all about me. What's in for me? Every time, every situation, you will kind of feel that persona. That person is always calculating. So you are being judged, you are being perceived. Being being includes everything: behavior, attitude. You people see Many people see problems, not opportunities. You will see where people stand up. Oh, that's not possible. That's not where the organization should go. That's not possible. That's impossible. That's scary. They operate from fear. For some of the people, you will always see they always conversations end in disagreements. They are always, sometimes people are always in hurry. They'll micromanage. They lack emotional intelligence. They'll be overwhelmed. Some of them operate from comfort zone. Connecting, not having exposure to the right people or right projects at the right time, not having that impact that you are known for, that impact, not having that visibility and brand which you should have when you are supposed to get to another level. That's a premise, I'm kind of trying to explain that what happens. So what we are trying to here is, to bridge that gap, to bridge the gap of that understanding. So, like I said, your perception is that function of doing, being, and connecting, and all of start here in the mind. Everything start here in the mind. So, mindset is everything. Do you believe in that? Quickly type in yes, no. Do you agree with me? Mindset is everything. I'm waiting for the answers. Yes, 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 absolutely. Yes. Thank you. Yes, mindset dictates behaviors, actions, your doing, which is doing, behaviors, attitude, which is being, and relationships, which is connecting. So, if we have the right mindset, we can change everything. Mindset is an operating system. But sometimes science says that, most of the times we are not using all our mind or brain. We are only operating from half of our mind. And my presentation or my actual delivery to you starts now, where I talk about mindset. And take notes, ask questions in the Q&A box. I may not look at Q&A box for some time, but I'll definitely answer all the questions. I'll start with a story about an old farmer. You might have heard about this story, but it's good to kind of revisit it. An old farmer lives in his farm with his teenage son. He also has a beautiful stallion that he lovingly cares for. The farmer enters his stallion into the annual country fair competition. His stallion wins first prize. The farmer's neighbor gather to congratulate him on this great win, and he calmly says, "Who knows what's good and what's bad?" Okay, the neighbors are puzzled and they go back. The next week, there's a theft. Some thieves who heard about Stallion's increased value, they steal the horse. Neighbors come to console the farmer, and he again, very calmly and very gathered space, he says, "Who knows what's good, what's bad?" Several days later, the spirited stallion escaped from the thieves and find his way back to the farm, bringing with him some new friends, a few wild mares. And to his neighbor's excited rounds of congratulations, the old farmer once again says, "Who knows what's good, what's bad?" A few weeks later, the farmer's son is thrown off one of his new mirrors, and which I mean, basically, he was trying to break it in, and farmer's son's leg is fractured. Now the neighbors come again. It's a village, right? Everybody knows everything. So neighbors again come back and console the farmer. And he says, who knows what's good and what's bad? The following week, Imperial Army marches through the village, conscripting all eligible young men for the war. And farmer's son, of course, is spared. Neighbors now are kind of confused whether they should congratulate or not because they know what farmer is going to say. Who knows what's good, what's bad? So the point I'm bringing home here is that sometimes, this story may be an extreme situation. Who knows what's good, what's bad? But sometimes we really judge things as good and bad very easily and very promptly, very hurriedly. Sometimes we look at things very narrowly and we lose on opportunities. We lose on opportunities of right doing, right being, right connections, doing, being, and connecting. And we realize it, and sometimes we don't even realize it later. You might recall such statements, which I'm going to give it to you right now. Maybe you might have, heard it, you saying it, or somebody else saying it. I'm right. I know it all. People here don't understand. I need to tell exactly how should they do it to my team. Otherwise, they won't be able to perform at all. And the most important statement, widely used. I don't have time. I have always been doing like this. So, all these statements come from mindset. So, we are going to talk about mindset. And lot of models, lot of scientists, lot of psychologists have talked about mindset. And there are quite a few models that explains mindset. We are going to explore one model of it, which is one of the latest ones, which is based on neuroscience and cognitive science, cognitive behavioral science. It's called positive intelligence. I call it science behind the mindset. It's also called PQ. For example, emotional intelligence is also called as EQ. Positive intelligence is called PQ. It has been developed by a gentleman called Shiraj Sharmin. He is a professor in Stanford University. He and his team has done extensive research on mindset, how the gray matter develops, what happens. He has done research on 5 million people across 50 odd countries. So I have been certified on PQ, and when I work with my clients, coaching clients, they work with me on mindset also. Executive coaching, leadership coaching clients. So this whole work is. I'm just giving you a little bit of context here. So this whole work, when we do it in detail, it's supported by an app. So in the app, you do some daily exercises. You are handheld, handholded for your growth, and then slowly what it does, it helps you increase the gray matter in the brain and shifts your mindset very slowly. And as a gift resource to you, I'm going to share at end of the masterclass, I'm going to share a PQ assessment profiling with all of you. So that I'll do towards the end. Okay, so let's hit the PQ thing. Positive, what exactly positive intelligence tells us about the mindset. It says before we start on, I'm just going to check the Q&A box. Okay, there are no questions as of now. Do keep typing in your question in the Q&A box, and I'll take those questions whenever there is a logical end to a module. Okay. So PQ says that we have 9 saboteurs. The way saboteurs is basically, to make it simple, I'll start by saying it, it's 9 shades of personality we have. And I'm going to let you read this before I start talking about this. I'll give us a couple of seconds here, and you read this particular thing so that you have little bit of you digest it. And okay, so there are 9 shades of personalities, or whichever way you want, 9 flavors basically. Controller, anxiety based need to take charge and control situations, bending people's actions to own will, that results in high anxiety and impatience. Hyperachiever, dependent on constant performance and achievement for self respect and self validation. High focus on external success. Internal validation is dependent on external success. Hyperachiever. For example, you might have heard many CEOs are hyperachievers, and they say, let's focus on a target 10 million this time. You know, we have to win the best organization award. Also, we have to do this. We have to be the best of the team. Let me force my team to do 10 things at a time. Hyperachiever. They expect everybody to be hyperachievers also. Restless. Restless, constantly in search of greater excitement in the next activity. They're never satisfied in the current activity. They're like, okay, what's next? What's next? What's next? Stickler. You see it all in the picture, right? An organization and order need is taken too far by a stickler. Small things also they'll see. You'll see many times I mean, some of you might have heard, oh, my spouse is stickler, right? So it's very easy to see those things in your spouse. Hypervigilant, continuous intense anxiety about all the dangers in life, a strong focus on what could go wrong now. Every time they will be able to find it out. It can go wrong here because of X number of reasons. Pleaser, indirect attempt to gain acceptance by helping, pleasing, rescuing, flattering. Sometimes pleasers also lose sight of their own needs. Avoider, let me avoid this. I'll do it tomorrow. Avoiding difficult and unpleasant tasks. These people will call things boring many times. I'll do it tomorrow. Victim, you know it, right? Emotional attention, style to gain attention, affection, martyr, right? Why me? Why me? Why this client? Why this boss? There are some people who always gets those bosses, right? Why me? Hyper rational, intense and exclusive focus on rational processing of everything. So, what these 9 saboteur do to us? They saboteurs, what they do to us is they force us to behave in a certain way. They trigger our behaviors in certain way. They come from There are two sides of the brain. So saboteurs come from the negative, from the left side of the brain, and from the left also they come from something called limbic system. I mean, I'm sure most of you know that limbic system is our primitive brain, where flight and fight reaction. If there is a snake which comes on my table, I'll be like bouncing, going back. That's my reaction. I will not calculate, okay, snake has come here, I will go back. No, it will automatically happen. That's a fight or flight reaction. So sabotage stays in the part, you know, where that fight and flight reaction is there in my mind, which is on the backside of my brain. That's part of my left brain. So there's the opposite side of saboteur, which is from the positive intelligence terminology standpoint, we call it SAGE. That's a positive mindset, where positive mindset stays. So there is a part of a brain which is here, if you can see my video. So which is exactly on the front side of my brain. It's called prefrontal cortex, and it's an evolved brain. Only human have it. So positivity, lot of positivity stays in that kind of brain, which is sage brain. All our creativity all our strategic thinking, they all stay in positive mind. And it's an evolved brain. We also call it executive brain. So saboteurs stay there. They force us to act. Saboteurs also forced us to act, definitely. They forced us to take actions. We can call that they motivate us through negative emotions, through emotions like fear, stress, anger, guilt, shame, any negative emotions. For example, I should work on this project, otherwise I will not get my variable salary component. There is some negative emotion there. I should go to office today, otherwise they'll say, this guy has disappeared totally, you know. So negative emotions. So whereas, Sage helps us to motivate positive emotion through positive emotions. Empathy, curiosity, happiness, creativity, passion, purpose. So something positive. So it's very important to stay connected to our emotions. At which emotion I'm taking this action through, with respect to the mindset. So, I mean, some of you might argue that there are hyperachiever managers, hyperachiever CEOs, and they are very successful. Yes, they are successful, no denial in that, but they might not be happy. It definitely can create success, but they will burn out eventually, and many of them cannot reach the levels where you and me may want to reach. There will be many empathetic leaders who work from the positive side and who will take their teams along. So Sage generates happiness and success together. That's what Sage does. When we work from saboteur standpoint, it doesn't, it is a lot of stress. It generates a lot of negative hormones like cortisol and all that. That's what a Sage does. Any questions before we go forward on this particular thing? I'm just waiting here so that if you have any questions, we can take those questions. Are you with me? Say yes, no. Noting it down. You want me to go one slide back? Can you ask your question? This one, you mean? Okay, you're with me. Perfect. So now I have given you the science behind it. Now it's time to work on it. Come on, let's do it quickly. So there's a lot I want to share, and I have a time clock here so that I don't want to lose the sight of time also. Um, so I've given you that, how does your brain work? Now, I said, end of the masterclass, I'll be sharing, assessment with you where you can clearly know what are your top saboteur. So note down those 2 or 3 saboteurs with you. That will be very, very helpful to you. If you're mindful, you will be able to see that you are behaving from those saboteurs. So there are 3 muscles which we need to develop. And I'm not giving you any magic, please. I'm just I'm giving you few strategies, few ways to channelize your growth. And you need to go back and apply it. It will take time. So recognizing your saboteur is the first step. Intercepting, you go and recognize and intercept. So when I'm saying intercepting, because we are so, as I said, we are so ingrained with those mental muscles. Every time, our kid shouts, sometimes we always behave in a certain way because we are so, it's all ingrained in our memory, mental muscle memory. As we have physical muscles, we have mental muscles also, neuro patterns. Recognize saboteurs, intercept, and then activate the positive part, sage part. I've given you what saboteurs are. How would you recognize saboteur? You, of course, going to have that assessment. Intercept is recognizing it and cutting it off. Now I'm going to help you with activating SAGE path. SAGE says that every outcome or circumstances can be turned into gift and opportunity. It may sound philosophical to some of you, but that's the truth. There are multiple ways you can acquire the positive mindset, change mindset, increase the gray matter. Even in PQ, there are multiple ways. But what I'm going to give you here is a power called three gift technique. And there are three techniques which I'm going to share with you. I'm going to share the first one, knowledge. Whenever something happens, something bad happens, something not so good happens, right? You have to understand which saboteur is coming, and then you have to disconnect there and activate by asking these questions. What knowledge would I need to gain here so that payoff in the future is much larger than right now what is costing me? Because of COVID situation, you have not got your promotion this year. You were due, you were eligible, you were ready, but it didn't happen. So general reaction I would have done without knowing all this, disappointed, grudges, blaming self, blaming luck, blaming organization, blaming COVID. So, what I'm trying to do is, I'm either judging myself, judging others, or judging circumstances. One way to get out of this, we are changing our neuro connections here. I'm just setting the context right. One way to get out of this is turn into a mindset of positive and happiness. I'm not saying be positive, be positive. No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying doing it scientifically. Ask the question, what knowledge should I gain here in these months so that my promotion cannot be denied next year? If you acquire the sage mindset, calmly you ask your question, you might get an answer that, okay, I should learn my speaking skills, I should go for this program, I should do an executive MBA, I should hire a coach, I should speak to a mentor, I should work on a behavior, maybe I learn this, maybe I don't learn anything and stay silent, I don't know what. But the point is you will get one answer which is much better than begrudging you, begrudging organization, and begrudging everything. It's only one example I'm giving, but the more you do it, the more practice you do it, your mindset changes slowly. Gift number two is power. Whenever something not so good happens, as you guys, I mean, many of you make muscles, right? Physical muscles. We do reps in the gym to create strength in those muscles. See the problem as a weight against which your muscles grow and ask yourself which muscle you need to grow here. For example, a bad boss, right? Many of us have seen bad bosses many times. Instead of grudging, instead of complaining and blaming, see how do I handle this person? Which mental muscle? Maybe listening, maybe clear, concise communication, maybe thoughtful words. I don't know what. Get those answers. For example, one of my managers, uh, long time back, maybe 15 years back, used to avoid the promotion discussion with me. I used to feel so frustrated. I was one of those high potential, so called from the organization standpoint, but we never could have that clear discussion. I used to feel so frustrated. But now reflecting back, I think the better way of handling was maybe I need to learn something on the muscles, right? That muscle could have been clear communication, handling difficult people, anything. Muscle is different for everybody. This is a second gift which you can use to acquire the sage mindset. Third was an inspiration. Whenever something not so good has happened, commit to an inspiring action. Again, I'm coming to promotion because that's the topic, but we can relate it to anything in your life. Believe me, anything. You're not being promoted this year. So you decide, whenever I am feeling bad about it, I'm going to do a positive thing. Maybe I'm going to mentor two people in the organization. Maybe I'm going to volunteer time. So what I'm trying to do here, whenever I'm doing these actions, before I go further, I just want to make sure you understand this. So inspiration is whenever something has happened, you commit to something good. It could be related, it could not be related. Anything good. Maybe As simple as that, writing that thank you note to somebody in the office, thank you note to your spouse, anything, to your son, to your daughter, anything good you're doing. Whenever you have those thoughts which are not so good thoughts, so what you're doing here is basically based on positive intelligence. What you're doing here is you are feeling the heat and you're taking your hand off the pan. This is a metaphor which has been used because whenever there's a hot pan, you don't keep your hand there for a long time, right? You just take it. But whenever we have those thoughts, most of us be there for some time. And like this metaphor, they hurt us. So in the three things which I've explained, that's what you're trying to do. You're trying to get off your hand from the pan. So what we are going to do here is we are going to do a small exercise. So what I'm trying to say is, using this mindset as an operating system, right? So if you have the right operating system, you know how to handle difficult conversation, difficult feelings, basically. It can trigger from difficult conversation. It can trigger from anything in the office, at home. So you have the worksheet where you have first worksheet you have. I'm going to bring that on. Oh, there's a question called three people have said the same question. There are nine saboteur. What about sage? So sage, there's no as such. Sage is saboteur is a negative mindset. Sage is a positive mindset. There are different ways to come up with positive mindset. There are no numbers as such. Five sages or seven sages. There's no number as such. So sage is a positive mindset if we talk from that perspective. So I'll give you quickly 5 minutes to reflect on those questions which we have on the positive mindset. I'm trying to bring those questions on screen. So what are your two behaviors, attitude which annoy you and which annoy others? Quickly reflect on these questions, and if you need more time, you can do it after the masterclass also. But because we are in that space, to have quick notes, whatever is coming in your mind is the best answer. Don't look for the best answers as such. So you have these questions on the screen. I'll give you 3-4 minutes more to reflect on that. I'm keeping myself on mute and I'll be back in 2 minutes. Okay, so any questions, any reflections, anything from your experience before we go ahead with other two strategies for today? So anything you want to share, any reflection, you liked it, you didn't like it, you agree with it, you don't agree with it, whichever way. Feel free to say if you don't agree with it, that's absolutely fine. Write it in the Q&A box that you agree with it or not. It helped you or not. Thank you. Anybody else? Would you like to type in that? Did you like it? You agree with this exercise? Any reflections would you like to share? If you don't know all the answers, that's absolutely fine. See, these are the personal questions, right? If you don't know the answer, be more aware. Try to answer those questions, try to reflect more on. Keep these questions with you. You go back and reflect on it and take feedback if you would like to, if that is going to help you. Now, these answers are really going to help you in your growth. Okay, should we proceed? A simple yes, no, because if I can't see you, it becomes difficult if I don't get a response. And to keep my energy levels high also. So give me a quick yes, no. Should we proceed ahead? Yes. Thank you. Yeah. Amanda said she really liked gift thing. Yes, Amanda. It's sometimes difficult to practice, but yeah, that's how we need to start on. It's helping. You may give more example or techniques to convert this habit practically. How can we? So the practically those 3 steps which I told you, that's the practice you need to do daily. And do write to me an email. You have my email IDs. Do write to me in case you have anything when you practice it. I'll be happy to hear. I'm a conversations person. I love to have conversations. Okay, so in spirit of time, let's go ahead and so in my book, Get Your Next Promotion, I have given 10 unwritten rules of promotion, which is these 3 pillars. You know, you need to have right goals, your thoughts and words, you connect and grow. They're different elements. I don't want to over bombard the information, but this is what is already there in the book. And now we understand the right mindset, and now let's go on. How do we apply? I said mindset is a operating system. Remember this word. This is really going to be very useful. So we'll start with we're going to 2 of these 10 strategies basically in today on the high level. One we have already done, so 2 more we are going to do. So the first one is goal setting, and all of you know about it, have heard enough of goal setting. So I'm not going to give you a gyan on goal setting for sure, but I'm going to set the right premise that you know that story of Arjun that from Mahabharata, that his teacher asked the students what they can see, and Arjun said he can only see eye of the bird. That's the importance of goal setting. That's how, I'm just bringing these stories and these examples to set those neuro connections so that you can relate this when you go back, because it's not new, right? Goal setting is not new. I don't want to come here and, on a Saturday morning and tell you that you should this goal setting and you should do smart goals and all that. No, I want to bring some more practicality to it, that, what happens in the goal setting. Yes. So I'm just bringing in that, what organization think about your goal setting, because I have seen both the sides. I see daily basis. I talk to organization as an executive coach, and I talk to executives as an executive coach. So what organization thinks? You have it all. Your goals are always talked about. You have IDPs, you have those matrices, your personal, these are all answered things, right? So your personal development goals is your responsibility. They assume that you know your goals clearly. They assume that you had fair discussion with your managers about your goals. Your managers regularly follow up, and everybody, like, works on goals in a similar way. And feedback conversations are being happened, and feedbacks are being taken. So that's what the organization perspective is. A quick yes, no. Do you agree with me? Let's make it real quick call here. We have warmed up enough now. So you agree with me? This is how your organization think. Yeah, lot of yes. So that's never said, but I'm bringing here the perspective of your organization. And as that's my favorite way of doing. So what mid-level professionals think? This is the unsaid chatter in the mind. I'm kind of trying to show you the mirror. You may be exactly like this, you may not be exactly like this. So please take it with a pinch of salt that this is the unsaid, unspoken chatter or an impression in the mind. On a normal day, you're all focused on deliveries, on performances, on goals, families, whatnot, right? And your goals, your work, that has basically made you successful in the past. And you believe you can only work, right? That's in your hands, nothing else. Your manager should think about it, your organization should think about it. And now you know the saboteur signs. Slowly start connecting to what are some of the saboteurs coming here. A pleaser may think, I mean, why should I even ask my manager about it? ठीक तो चल रहा है. Everything is working fine. Why should even I engage in all those discussions and maybe create some negative impression? Avoider may say that let me think about it on some other day. Manbir is doing a workshop, a masterclass on Saturday. Saturday is not a good day. Let me do it in some other day. Somebody may, from the goal setting standpoint, avoider can say they're all formalities, nothing happens actually speaking. Hyper rational may say, I'm not going to get anything out of it. Believe me, everyone fills up these forms. Nothing has ever happened. Nothing is going to happen. Don't worry. So those are different ways of saboteurs. I'm just bringing in so that you can make more connections. But yeah, these are some of the ways I have seen in my experience executives with 20 years, 25 years, 15 years of experience saying and thinking and sharing these stories with me about goal setting. And I'm assuming all of you know how to set goals and smart goals and blah blah blah. But still we don't set the goals because it's ultimately life, right? Daily life keeps us busy. Life goes on in one way or the other. Family, kids, everything is happening, right? Chaos. And it's easy to dream and desire about a designation, about a salary, and seeing, wow, 40 under 40, 50 under 40, 50, and I want to be there. But actually, working on goals require sitting down, making time. That needs focus, time, patience. Who has that, right? Fears. What if I choose wrong goals? What if I tell somebody that, I want to be this, I want to be like this, but if I don't become, what if it my goals are useless after 1 year? What if I set my goals too high? What will I do actually after goals? What if I don't have the ability to achieve my goals? What if I fail? What if? There are different fears all have. We all have. So these are few of the things, which stops us, our, complicit behaviors also, and then uncertainty about what will happen next. So I'm straight away coming to goal setting action rather than going deeper into goal setting. Anybody has any questions about goals before we do the exercise? We have a detailed exercise, so we are going to spend some time on the goal setting exercise. So do you have any apprehensions about setting your goals or any questions about setting your goals? Quickly, Q&A box, use the Q&A box and ask the question, please. Yeah, so see, Goal setting exercise, you can do it only do it with yourself, definitely. Somebody has asked, should we do it ourselves or should we do it with somebody else? So you can work with your coach, you can work with your mentor. These are all additional things. But if you don't want to work with anybody else, you do it with yourself. That's okay. You doesn't need to, it's not important that you should always do it with somebody else. How many goals can we have at one point of time? See, life has couple of not couple of more spheres. Your professional goals, your personal goals, your health goal, your money goals, your spiritual goals, right? Depends on that. So we are talking about here is professional goals. So professional goals, they could be any number, but don't make it 8, 10, 15 goals. No, you can have high level goals and then you can have milestones. It's as simple as that. There's no that magic number that if it goes beyond this, but they should be aligned. Most of the times we do make competitive goals and then we are not able to reach there. I want to be the CEO of the organization and now I'm plant head but unable to set the goal. Yeah, so that's what I explained, right? There is an inability there. So that's what now a lot of it relate to mindset also. Work on the mindset and set a goal and don't worry about it, if you don't achieve there. Because in after 1 year, you may change the goal and that's absolutely fine. In my book, Get Your Next Promotion, if you reach the story on goal setting, that's from the MD of Baxter, India, Ravinder Dang. So he shares how many times he have changed the goal. He's also a marathon runner. So he really, really brings very important point of goal setting that, goals has to be agile. But if there's nothing you have as a vision, how will you achieve that? You know, beyond mid-level, you really have to be strategic about your growth. Okay, this is my goal. I should be talking to a mentor. See, I'm on board of some mentorship organization also. People don't utilize those opportunities. You write to people on LinkedIn, hire mentors. But what will you tell them if you don't have the goal, right? If you have the goal, then only you go to them and say, this is where I want to reach and I need your help. I'm giving an example where you're not spending any money. There are so many people are ready to mentor you without any money involved in this. But you need to be clear, right? So quantitative goals are also important and qualitative goals are also important. Qualitative is also somewhere you need to quantify this here, right? What is quality there? So it's very important to set qualitative goals also. So that's how I and do write to me on my email ID in case you have something from your personal life which you would like to share. So how do you find mentors? I mean, again, there's no straight away answer to it, but you find out that can we park this question for maybe end of the session so that we don't lose the sight of time here. Prakash, do post this question again towards the end of the session. Believe me, I'm going to answer this. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to share. You have this goal sheet with you. Do open up that sheet. I'm going to share that sheet here. Give your 100%, 100% to do this work right now with me. Close your eyes, take a couple of deep breaths, and spend 5 to 7 minutes on this exercise. That's all. If you're not able to answer your question, you can do it after the masterclass. But gather your thoughts for sure. And whatever answer comes as a first answer, do write at least. Go back and change, not a problem. Do write this. What is it would you like to achieve professionally in the next 5 years and next 1 year? 1 year is more important. I'm going to have a sip of my tea. See, I spoke about feelings, so connect with your goal is very important. Holistic connect. Why I'm saying that is because goal should be yours, not somebody else. How motivating is your goal to you? How committed do you feel about this goal, what you have just written? Don't hesitate. Nobody is looking at your notebook. Do write your feelings. I'll encourage you to write your feelings. Please do that. How comfortable are you with your goal? How achievable it looks to you? The next one is be ready for the goal. What pain area do you see associated with the goal? Anything which comes to your mind when I ask this question, what are the pains associated with your goal? I just want you to gather your thoughts with this word pain. How ready are you to handle those pains? Scribble your thoughts quickly. Whatever comes to your mind don't need to be the best, please. I keep saying this. Nishikant, I would encourage you to answer these questions in your notebook so that you have the answers with you, and I will definitely answer all your questions towards the end. I'm going to stay till all the questions are going to answer, so don't worry. What you have for your goals and what you need. Don't judge yourself, don't grudge. Write down the strengths you have to achieve the goal. What are the habits you need to develop? What are the habits you need to develop? What are the strengths you have? And the last one, action. Remember, doing, being, connecting. So it's action. What can you do about it today? Any small thing, maybe writing a LinkedIn message to somebody, maybe going back after the masterclass or after the lunch or whichever way, spending another half an hour on this sheet. That's, I'm just saying that from my perspective. That may not be the right perspective in your life. Whatever, right? Maybe you want to talk to your spouse about this experience and you want to talk to her or him about this. Maybe one thing. Maybe you want to talk to a friend about this experience and say, this is where I got stuck actually. There was a master class and I was doing this shit, but I don't have the answer to it. Anything. What do you want to do about these goals? Did you like this exercise? Any yes, no, quickly before I go to the next one? I also need some dose of good hormones, oxytocin here. So you're with me or you're not with me. That's also absolutely fine. But any quick yes or no Q&A will help me. Yes, yes. Thank you. Those yeses bring back the energy. Yes, let's do it. Okay, so I'm bringing my slide back. Do you see my slide? Do you see my slide? Yes or no? I've kept one iPad over here just to see that, you know, everything is going well with the slide set. Yes, okay. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much. Okay, so this is the third thing. What we are going to do today is conversations. What comes to your mind when you see this slide, conversations? Give me one quick line, one quick liner. What comes to your mind when you see this conversations? Interesting. Write it in the Q&A box. Amanda said relationships. Rajesh said feelings. Kash said conflicts, feedbacks. Listen, talking to senior executives, talking to someone. Hmm. Thank you. Yes. So, as part of our professional and personal life, we have conversations all the time, isn't it? By the time we are 3 years or even before that, we have been having conversations. Nothing really happens without the conversations. And I love it, actually speaking. And the importance and the nature of conversation might be different, might be different with different people, with different setups, but that's what we all have always, right? And we don't think much about it. And when we don't have conversations, we think about conversations many times. We are going to have this conversation. We are thinking about it. We had that conversation, and we have some feelings about it, and we are thinking about it. And when we talk about conversations, from we are relating it to promotion and more actually speaking, it's such an important trait your organization is expecting. Again, that unsaid kind of a trait, you know. And honestly, most of the feedback you get is reactive. It's in the hindsight, right? You know, Mr. So and so, that conversation, I don't think that client conversation did go well. We always get feedback on conversations as reaction, right? Remember, I have seen the both sides. I'm just bringing that in. I speak to organizations, I speak to management, I speak to executives, I speak to mid-level. So I will be bringing in the perspectives. And the trainings you get generally are on things like, you should shake hands like this, you should look into the eyes, listening at different levels. Very good content, good training. But conversations are much more than handshakes and looking at the eye level and standing like this and your postures like this, opening your hands like this. They are definitely good and they should be included. But my point is, conversations are much more than that. Write down this line, this is very important. I find it very important. Conversations are the experiences you create. It's the experience you create for yourself and for others. It's really beyond the physical gestures and manners. Good conversations are made of intention, attention, listening, trust, empathy, curiosity, and emotions. Trust is a very important component of a conversation. Unsaid component of a conversation. It's a very important aspect of a good conversations. Sometimes you have a bad day and things don't go well with the client, but some clients will not make you feel bad. Their conversations will not be of blame, rather, it will be of a situation. It will not be about you, right? It will be about, focus on the betterment, focused on, this happened at the situation. And for some clients, for some peers, for some bosses, they can blame you for everything. You feel that. I'm saying your story. You don't feel like talking and interacting with these people, right? It happens. Quick yes or no, guys. Yeah. Yes, it happens. We are all human, right? And human conversations is one important thing which is close to my heart. And just to let you know, I'm also certified on conversation intelligence by Judith Glaser. That's what I'm bringing in that part of science here today. Before we go, what organization thinks about conversations? I've put some bold red stamps here. So they're all unsaid chatters, unsaid things. Work is important, so feedback is on the work, right? Conversations are common sense. I've heard it so many times. I've heard it so many times. Conversations are common sense, isn't it? People should know. People should know where to talk about, what to talk about. And we have trainings for everything. Now, the online trainings, right? We have available material for everybody, whosoever wants to develop them on conversations or any part of conversations. If that person can succeed, so everybody is in the same organization. They also have the similar opportunities. Why people are talking about it? They can train yourselves. We give equal opportunity to everyone, basically. So that's what organizations say. No compromise on work. Work is important. Conversation is common sense. Trainings are there. Opportunities everywhere in the organization. So it's about people. It's about people who can take them, who can utilize them, who cannot utilize them. What mid level professionals think? All is well in my world. My conversations are good. Whatever Manbir is saying, yeah, she's talking about that person's conversation, but not me. I'm good. I'm listening. Trust? Why should not people trust me? Why? I'm the most trustworthy person. Even when I don't have intention to collaborate, I have intention to blame, my intention is invisible. No, guys, your intention is not invisible. I just want to hold on your thoughts in this and write your reflections if there are any. Others must understand. I am very understanding, others must understand. And very interestingly, especially with senior people, now will they teach me on how to talk? I mean, how can they? I have handled this billion business in my last organization, and now they are telling me I need to learn how to talk. Okay. So that's how we think many times. Many times we are assuming things about ourselves and others actually speaking. So I'm going to bring in some science now. And I'm going to see, okay, there are no questions. And I'm going to bring in some science here. It's called, I mean, I'm saying chemical cocktails. Why I'm saying chemical cocktails is because it's all about chemistry in the body. It's about the hormones. See, most of us don't have any intention as such to hurt somebody, right? Most of us normal human being, we get up in the morning and we have good intentions about ourselves and about others. But still we hurt people. Still we get hurt. And we also, in our conversations, hurt people. We react on certain things and people react on our conversations. You know, um, founder of Conversation Intelligence, Judith Glaser, she has a very beautiful quote. Words create worlds. Words create worlds. So the words we use have either a positive or negative impact on others. When we react on certain things, we don't choose our words carefully. And there's a science behind it. What happens in our brain, the chemicals we produce, the chemicals other person produce. So the science I'm talking about is neuroscience. Neuroscience looks at the structure and function of this human brain and nervous system. When I'm and you and me are talking right now, of course I'm doing the talk part, but still we are both of us are generating, all of us are generating hormones and chemicals constantly through our brain. That brain is doing that work unintentionally. So there are a lot of hormones, but for simplicity, so that you can go back and relate to it and be more mindful. So there are two chemicals which your body is generating right now. One is called oxytocin, other one is called cortisol. So as you see in the picture, oxytocin is a positive hormone when we trust people. When we have conversations where we have a feeling of warmth, feeling of trust, feeling of goodness, that's an oxytocin conversation. Cortisol, when we don't like those conversations, we have bad feelings. It's all about feelings by end of it, right? Mindset also, we said, it's about feelings. So we have to be connected to our feelings. We have to be connected to others' feelings also. So oxytocin gets generated in good conversations, and cortisol gets generated in not so good conversations. Oxytocin, of course, is a good chemical which gives us positivity, a feeling of happiness. Cortisol gives us stress, negative, pessimistic feelings. And cortisol's shelf life is approximately 72 hours. When we have a bad conversation on conflict, I remember many times you say, on Friday, I had a conflict and the whole weekend got spoiled because the cortisol stays in the body. It really have a bad impact on you, and then you might have, then you come back on a Saturday, you might have another conflict with your spouse because you are carrying that impression in your mind, carrying that cortisol still in your mind. You are stressed about that conversation, you have pessimistic negative feelings. Whereas if you have good conversations, oxytocin has really low shelf life, maybe few hours. That's what our body is made like this. Negative feelings stay for longer time, positive feelings stay for smaller time. So we may have to constantly do the positive conversations for maybe more times, more frequently. So what happens inside the brain? I'm giving you a little more context from the science standpoint. When your brain, note down if you would like to note down some of things. When your brain picks up a signal that is a threat, any kind of threat in a conversation, within zero point zero 0.07 seconds, that's how fast your brain is. Within zero point zero 0.07 seconds, the brain starts releasing chemicals, oxytocin, cortisol, adrenal, into the bloodstream. Your brain picks up the signal, that's the threat, and it starts producing hormones, sorry, chemicals. In 1/10 of the second, chemicals bring up feelings, and feelings bring up thoughts. Within 1 second, you have made your mind already. Whether I'm going to trust this person, I am assuming about this person, what kind of conclusions I'm drawing about the situation and the other person. And if it's a threat situation, brain goes into the protection mode. The voice inside is protect, protect, protect. That is, I'm going to become now defensive. I'm going to become negative now in the conversation. And all this I'm trying to explain is automatically. It happens automatically. Whichever way you shook your hand, whichever way you stood up, whichever way, whatever happened, if your mind has perceived a threat here, your brain goes to the protect mode, and your the choice of words and everything is going to be very different. So why it happens? It happens in the I-centric conversations, threat thing. When you feel that somebody is excluding you, I'm just giving you example, excluding from a tribe kind of a thing, but excluding from a discussion, certain decision making process. Small thing like if somebody is planning a party and didn't include you, that's a very small example. But if you have a feeling of exclusion and if you give other people, see, the idea here is not how you feel. Idea here is how do you plan your conversations that others are not feeling excluded. So my point of explaining all this so that you can take charge of your conversations. So if you make other people exclude, so of course their body, hormones change, your changes, and trust feeling is not there. So people also, feel triggered when they feel judged. They are being evaluated. They are not being understood. Limit. If somebody is limiting you, micromanage, controlled, right? If every interaction is controlled, kind of a feeling. Withholding the information, that happens a lot in organizations, right? So when somebody withholds something and you're like, okay, I don't know the whole story. Dictate. Somebody is dictating, commanding you. Somebody wants you to do things in your own way, in their own way. So these conversations, we call it I-centric. Don't confuse yourself with all this information. Write the word I centric. When you have the feeling of I centric thing, that it's only me, right? That's the conversation that triggers people. Another set of conversation is we centric conversations, which are oxytocin conversation for better understanding. Of course, these are the conversation where have we have the feeling of we. Good leaders do it. Good leaders do it. They might not. I mean, eye contact is very good thing people should make, but that is of course very important. I'm not denying. But if sometimes people use the kind of words, kind of energy they bring in, they'll make you feel we. When people make you feel we, you don't feel triggered. You feel safe with them. A lot of organizations talk about psychological safety. I mean, I go away from the theory. Psychological safety is very important. But what is psychological safety? Where people feel safe with you, right? So if you have conversations which where you are getting included, you feel included, or you make others feel included, whichever way you want to take it, you feel appreciated. Not like, oh, well done. Well done is not an appreciation, believe me. If your manager appreciate exactly the way you presented last week to a client, maybe even saying that, those fact slide was very good, and we have a solid ground based on that fact slide. That's the appreciation your mind is going to retain. Even for you also, when you appreciate somebody, well done doesn't work. Oh, mind blowing, well done. No, it doesn't work. Be specific. That's the conversation your mind have as a V centric positive hormones. When people there's a saying, right? People forget what you said, but people always remember what how you made them feel. So made them feel is coming from these hormones, guys. When people feel expanded, you're seeking somebody's opinion. There's a lot behind it, right? I'm just giving you high level frameworks. For example, you ask open ended questions, you include people, you're curious, you're including people's opinion genuinely, you're co-creating with them. Something which you are co-creating, how do you co-create? You share with them and you expand their thinking. They're all related, right? You're open you're open to share your ideas, open to co-create with them with their ideas also. So that's we-centric conversation. So any questions about we-centric conversations before we get on to the exercise? Rajesh said this is new for him and he really liked this I-centric and we-centric conversation. Thank you. Thanks for your feedback. So you don't need to be expert on science, but understanding science, helps us to react. So let's look at your sheet. Open your PDF document. I'm also bringing on the document on screen. And so you understood I-centric, we-centric conversation. So I'm going to encourage you to, bring it in your mind, the next critical conversation. Even that conversation can be with your spouse. you know it could be that, it could be with the manager, it could be with your peers, with your client, anything. Think about that conversation and write whatever comes to your mind. Who are the stakeholders? What will you lose if that conversation don't go well? What will you gain if it goes well? I'm going to hold on for a while so that you can reflect on these couple of questions. If you don't know the answers to it, keep those questions in your mind. How can you exhibit inclusion, include people? One of the ways asking open ended questions. But every situation is different, right? How can you exhibit trust? As I said, we assume few things that I'm being trusted. These are all continuous things. It's not the status, it's not the stage that, now we trust each other and, nothing will happen. They're all continuous. What are your strengths when it comes to conversations? Maybe somebody is very humorous, very jolly, keep smiling. Anything which is your strength. Maybe you're a very good listener. What are your trigger points in a conversation? For me, for example, if somebody doesn't look at me while having a conversation, that really puts me off. So that's my trigger point in a conversation. I lose my interest in a conversation if somebody is not looking at me in a conversation. The idea is not to change people. Idea is to know ourselves and prepare yourself for growth. How do you craft your conversation so that people trust you, people feel included, people feel that positive experiences you are creating every time you are having those conversations? Last one is very important. I encourage all of you to take feedback on your conversations because many times we are not aware of our own blind spots. Some of you asked about goals also, that how do we know? Taking feedback is very, very important thing when we talk about conversations and our behaviors. So any questions you have before we go ahead? Type in the Q&A box if you have any questions or any reflections which you want to share. Yeah. Yeah, it's about being more mindful of where you are, who you are, how do you behave. Yeah, that's right. I'm going to bring back the slide set. Did you like the exercise? Are you with me? Did you like the exercise? Write quickly in the Q&A box to see what's happening. Yes. Thank you. Feels good. Thank you. Okay. So let's see. So what else do you need for your promotion? So, mindset sits here in the center, right? It's an operating system. You need diverse experiences. You need to have that brand visibility, impact beyond boundaries, not only for job description, but also beyond that. You need the skill of asking favors, asking promotion, even asking resources. You need to leverage on the diversity, neurodiversity, your development plan, relationships, emotional intelligence. And what we did today is we touched on these three components: goal setting, mindset, and conversation intelligence.